I don't know where it was, what I was talking about. But yeah. Oh yeah. I think I wanted him to guide me and tell me what to do, to coach me. And that's why I think when I had that life coach guy, he helped me more, I felt. Because he guided me and he did ask questions and signpost me to my own conclusions, so I could find my own conclusions. But I think I did want more guidance. I wanted a role model, that's what I wanted, I believe. But yeah, the role of a counsellor isn't to do that, it's more to ask questions which help you unveil your own answers, I guess, are, innate or latent within you. What else? Yeah, I woke up this morning and I sat in bed fantasising for about 30 minutes, must have been, over like a couple of different girls. And that's probably the most sex has been on my mind. Hopefully that wind isn't too obnoxious. Isn't being too obnoxious. And yeah, it's probably the most I've thought about sex in like a month or so, at least a month. And that is just a result of last night, just not being in line with my values. And like this morning was the first time I'd even had a slight temptation to jerk off, and I re-downloaded Tinder, and because I haven't watched porn in, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks, same with jacking off, and I re-downloaded Tinder, basically like some soft porn, I assumed, and then I just started actually using it like properly, I guess. And I don't know what it is, like my perspective has shifted, and I really don't. I'll talk about the conversation I had last night in a minute, but I don't seem to care as much about girls. And I was on Tinder for like, must have been 40 minutes straight, like swiping, and I'm not kidding, it must have been like 40 minutes, it must have been maybe 30 minutes, but it was at least half an hour, 35 minutes at least, just fucking swiping. And how many girls did I swipe right on? 4. I'm not kidding. And I realised that only after like I was on it for about 20 minutes and I'd only swiped right on like 1 or 2. And I realised like, what the fuck? Like, wait, am I? And then I started to question, like, am I being authentic? Am I just swiping left because I'm getting a kick out of it? Like I feel superior. But then I was no, it wasn't. It was genuine. Like, I only swiped right on 4 girls because those 4 I would think like, okay, I would actually genuinely want to, from what I can see and read, these are girls I would genuinely want to go on a date with. From what I could see and read, I was like, that's a bit fucking, innit? That's a bit naff shit. It's interesting though. I don't know what that's a reflection on. I don't want to go into that now exactly. That's probably lengthy and require me thinking, but a lot. But yeah, probably it's just a reflection of my level of authenticity or where I could be. Like for example, at the moment I probably would fuck, if the occasion like allowed for it. I would probably fuck more than 4 out of those hundreds of girls I swipe left on. Because when you're in the moment, it's not just pure rationale, it's you've got your emotions, you've fucking got hard on your cock's doing the talking for you sometime. And even though I'm not as bothered about sex now, it probably would be much more on my mind if I'm with a girl who's sexually interested in me, definitely. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I was living at a point wherein I was not so bothered about girls genuinely, and I was like completely on my mission, and maybe I was completely secure in myself in regard to sex, then maybe I would only sleep with 4 of those hundreds of girls. So I think that's like pure authenticity coming through, if I was being like my ideal self. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Last night, me and that girl talked about this guy who likes her in the hostel. That's what we actually talked about for so much. And I remember thinking like, wait, am I just being a little beta bitch because I'm just listening to her talking about this guy who likes her? But then I realised I actually genuinely find it very interesting, because basically he's a bit of a white knight. He is needy. He follows her around. Not to me, it's not super overt, but she was telling me how wherever she goes, she feels like she can't go on her own because he follows her. And like we were downstairs in the kitchen, and he came down either 3 or 4 times over the space of a couple of hours. And she was saying like he's usually in bed asleep by this time. He's never been up this late, I don't think. And he just came down and said, "Oh, I couldn't sleep." And then when me and Hayley went to bed because the kitchen's right next to the living room, he was sleeping on the sofa, or trying to get to sleep on the sofa in the living room, probably so he could try to hear what we were talking about. And then about 20 minutes later, when I got in bed, he came in back to his bed in the dorm. I just thought it was very interesting, because in school that was me. That was absolutely me. And maybe if I was infatuated with a girl, a few months ago, maybe that would be me. Maybe not this bad. No. But yeah, it was interesting. It was genuinely interesting. And eventually I just says, "Okay, I'm going to bed. Let's go to bed," or whatever. And it was interesting because I'm not very sexually attracted to it at all. I remember last night throughout the whole interaction, I genuinely didn't care. Like, talked about when she'd asked me like when the last time I jacked off, and talk about porn, and it is just like general open conversation. It's not really sexually charged. It doesn't feel like it at all. Maybe I'll reflect on this and be like, "Oh no, she was digging you," but honestly, in my subjective experience, she doesn't show overt indications of interest. We're just very open, and the fundamental thing is I'm not interested. Maybe if she was there fucking in my bed, like basically coming on to me, maybe maybe I don't know, I probably would, but in terms of now, I'm just like, no, I don't really care. So that's girls. Essentially, the last week I think I've broken because my mind's been rebelling. I think I mentioned this in another video. My mind has basically been like, "Fuck you, Luke, don't put a cap on me, I'll show you who's boss." And there's a pretty cute girl coming my way, I think. And it's just like rebelling and just being like, "No, fuck you, I'm gonna eat as much as I fucking want, 1600 calories, 1550 calories, and exercise. Fuck you, I'm gonna triple that in a day and just eat exactly what I want, when I want, as much as I want." That's basically what it is, I think. It's like my monkey mind, and I wish I could live with perfect reason. Is she cute? That's the thing. Like, the thing is, no, she's not. No, she's not. That's what I've noticed in this country. It seems to be, no. There are so many girls who have like really good bodies or decent bodies. There's not a lot of ass. Okay, that's a bit too specific, but you have great bodies, but then the faces, seems like a lot of Australian girls have quite long faces, like legit. It's quite interesting. They do have like genuinely quite long faces, and there is something Australian about them. I can't exactly pick up on what it is. And I know you might go, "Oh yeah, no shit, they're from Australia," but if you line up 10 girls, it's hard to say, excluding like skin colour. If you had like 10 white girls, say, it's hard to place exactly where they all are. Like, there is quite a Germanic look, maybe Italian and Spanish, but I couldn't really tell because I've not interacted with enough of them to like be able to discern what makes them Spanish. But Australian, it's like a long face and something else, and it's just not very attractive. It really isn't. What else do we want to talk about? I will pause and think. I guess I'm going to talk a bit about my belief system. I don't know what to call it, but one of the things I believe anyway is that I think I've mentioned this before, and it's pretty much common sense and whatever, but talking the talk and walking the walk are two different things entirely. So what I believe is that if you are in line with your goal and on your mission, etc., and living in line with your values, then you really don't give as much of a fuck about other people. And I don't know why I did this, because I'm telling you, I mentioned it last night, and I did it with somebody else there. So 2 days ago I was on a jog with Nico, and on the way home there's like a small road, and it was like the red man was on, and there were a few cars coming, and one car was easing out. So I went to basically tell Nico that we're crossing by starting to jog over. Then the car went fast, and the car behind started picking up just as we were crossing. So I stopped, and I started jogging just on the side of the road, like jogging on the spot. And this other person who had to slow down, put on the brakes a bit so as to not to hit us, because obviously the car in front had gone, looked at us and literally went like that, and I just put my hand up like to apologise, and then I was just jogging on the spot, and this woman behind us with her kid was like, boys, she just said like, boys, just get on the pavement or something. And then I just said, and this was interesting, usually I think I would just like take heed and just listen and just say, oh yeah, sorry, know I was doing wrong, or accept at least I was doing wrong, or believe I was doing wrong, and then just follow the instruction. But no, I just kept jogging on the road, and I turned around and says, well, we're not exactly on the road very much. And then she says, all right, just it's not funny, you shouldn't be doing that. She started saying some shit. She was, by law, she was right and I was wrong. And then she started going on. She says, you could cause an accident. It's not your way. Just wait to the green man. Stop being impatient. And then I was just like, yeah, I appreciate your point, but, and I said something else to poorly justify my point. And then she says, oh look, the man isn't even green. And then just as she said that, the man turned green, and I started jogging over. And all up until that point, we couldn't cross because there were cars going back and forth. And I don't know if I would have crossed and just ignored her. But we couldn't cross, so I was in an interaction with her. Just as that happened, and she was talking, the green man, it changed to a green man. And I says, oh look, you see, you're happy now? It's a green man. And then I went and jogged on. And it was interesting because what I'm trying to say is that if I was in a state of mind where I was feeling insecure, and I was like, didn't know what I was doing with my life, and I was, say, pretty overweight and constantly overeating, and I didn't feel like I had any control over my life, and I was aware of it, then what I'd have done is I'd have just said, oh, sorry, and I'd have stopped jogging, and I'd have just waited for the green man and not wanted any conflict. That's what I would have done, like, without a doubt, I'm pretty sure, something similar to that, but I'd have been submissive. But when I did this, it's probably because I was on a jog, like I had been overeating, but it's probably because I was on a jog and I felt like I was, I cleared my mind. I had a good chat with Nico. I was like living my purpose, let's say. I was living with some congruence, and I just said no, didn't give a fuck. I was much more assertive, and I found that quite interesting. It's like when I was cycling, doing my cycling holiday last year, I would just, like, I was on my bike and I'd be on the main road, and I remember at one point I went onto a motorway and the police passed us and said, like, get off the motorway, indicated with their thumbs, or their hands, say get off the motorway. I just didn't really give as much of a fuck. I was weaving in and out of cars and just not being dangerous, just being assertive and whatever. And that's what I'm getting at. When you see other people and they're like salty, or they get easily offended, or they're resentful, or they seem upset all the time, or they never laugh, or they're quite reclusive, stuff like this, I don't think they're indications exactly of just that personality. How it manifests is a symbol of their personality, is a representation of their personality. But I think the high level point is that these symptoms are manifestations of their not living authentically. If you're busting a nut every day to porn, and you're laying in and you just watch Netflix all day, I can't imagine a person like that at all to be dominant or assertive, and genuinely assertive, not just like resentful toward the other person and just like fuck you to everyone, because you could be like that yesterday, but you just get into a really heated argument because you hate the world and you hate yourself, or you hate the world because you hate yourself, and thus you just argue with everyone and you're just a cunt. But it comes back to the fact, I believe, of that person not living in line with what they want, what they genuinely want. And when you do start living like that, then you're more friendly, assertive, yada yada yada. And this is the thing, it's like with depression. I know this is touchy and whatever, I don't really care, and it's subjective, etc. I've never said I've been depressed, because I don't know if I have. I mean, I've had months on end where I think I've just, not been good, but generally I believe I've always had some ability to keep doing positive stuff, and that may be because I believe that it's up to you, you have to pull yourself out of it. And I know there is probably definitely like genuine clinical depression where the person can't help it, and no matter how much exercise they do and how many genuine friends they make, etc., they may still have real bad depression. I'm not talking about that, I'm more talking about the general almost pseudo depression. Is that the right way to coin it? That's a bit edgy, isn't it? If I'm using that word as I mean it to be used. Yeah, like a pseudo depression, which is, I've had the blues for about 3 months, and I just keep overeating and watching Netflix all day. It's like, whoa, have you tried exercising and getting fresh air and going walks in nature and journaling and meditation and socialising? I just can't. Well, you have to do something. It's up to you. It's on your head. Again, I'm not talking about clinical depression. I'm just talking about people who maybe say they've been depressed for X amount of time. And I mean, I think I could say that when I was back home living with my dad's partner. I was not in a good place. I really wasn't. But I wouldn't say I was depressed. Maybe I was, in terms of how people generally define it, but I'd say I was just in an environment really inconducive to my personality and my nature, and thus I wouldn't say that's depression. Like, it's one of the reasons I booked Australia, because I was like, I need to get into a new environment, and I'm happy I have, and I'm in a better headspace. 18-minute ramble, and I had one before this, didn't I? I am done. Good day.